Misery finds most company in Zimbabwe. This African nation is home to about 16 million people, and it has been named the world's most miserable country.
Yes, you heard that correctly. Zimbabwe has made another negative headline. How can a country so rich in minerals like gold become the number one miserable country in the world? I guess you know the answer by now, based on the documentary that Al Jazeera released last month. The Misery Index has analyzed 157 countries in the world as the most miserable countries. And number one on the list is Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, this analysis is done based on economic situation, inflation, unemployment, and interest rate of the nation, and Zimbabwe has been top on the list for 3 consecutive years. This is so pathetic to me, especially after Al Jazeera exposed the shady deals of gold smuggling in a documentary called The Gold Mafia. In the documentary, we saw money circulating in the hands of few powerful individuals. Meanwhile, an average Zimbabwean can't afford basic facilities like healthcare, food, or even water. What then is a true definition of wickedness? These actions has nothing to do with the colonial masters. We are our own enemy. The major problem of Africa is poor governance, greed, and self-centered leaders. And the adversaries know this weakness. Hence, they utilize this loophole to their own advantage. Until we fix our internal issues, we cannot conquer the external enemies. It's a pity. Watch this and share your opinion in the comment section with me. I see you in the next one. Peace.
We're talking about the Misery Index. It has analyzed 157 countries and ranked them in order of how miserable they are. Zimbabwe has topped the list. It's a country in Africa home to about 16 million people. It has topped this list for 3 straight years now. Where does India stand? At number 103. And how is this list created? What can countries learn from it? Our next report tells you.
Misery finds most company in Zimbabwe. This African nation is home to about 16 million people, and it has been named the world's most miserable country. But we aren't saying this. The Misery Index is. It is formally called Hankey's Annual Misery Index. How does it work? It's an economic index. This index analyzes 157 countries, then gives a score to each of them. This score is based on unemployment, inflation, bank lending rates, and percentage change in GDP. This year's index has now been released, and top of this honor roll is Zimbabwe. The index blames the country's political turmoil for this. It says that Zimbabwe is mired in corruption. This has only aggravated a deepening economic crisis, and its troubles don't end there. Violence is rampant and widespread. Tens of thousands are descending into poverty. So all this doom has made Zimbabwe the gloomiest nation to live in. Who's next? Venezuela, Syria, Lebanon, and Sudan. For Syria, it's their unemployment that is making it miserable. Not to mention its horrific civil war, which has been on for over a decade. As for the other 3 nations, Venezuela, Lebanon, and Sudan, inflation is the biggest reason for their sad state of being. Where's India in all this? It stands at number 103. The main reason for this is unemployment. What about neighboring Pakistan? It's dealing with both economic and political crisis, and it's only worsening by the day. The country ranks at 35. Yes, Pakistan is in the top 40 most miserable countries in the world. But that's no shocker. Here's one which might surprise you. Finland. It's the world's happiest country, yet it ranks 109th. Ironic, isn't it? But the fact is that the miserable index is about economic factors. which are connected to people's happiness. But they are not the only factors which bring us joy. As they say, money doesn't buy happiness. Let's put you out of your misery now and talk about the least miserable country in the world. It's Switzerland. We suspect the chocolates and cheese have something to do with it. Kuwait, Ireland, Japan, and Malaysia make up the top 5 of the least miserable countries in the world. At this point, you must be wondering, what is the point of discussing this index? How does it help any country? Fact is that this miserable index is a good tool to compare countries. It tells us a lot about where people are happy versus where they are, well, miserable. The countries doing well are not just for holiday inspiration, though we won't hold it against you. They can tell us a lot about how to achieve countrywide happiness. We can compare metrics, learn more about mitigating misery, and understand how growing inflation, political turmoil, and unemployment have drastic socio-economic consequences, one that can lead to constant distress, enough to top a misery list. This is the one list you'd not want to top. Because while misery might love company, you'd be much better off without it.